Hi everyone, welcome to the virtual office hours for Commissioner Wilson. My name is Lee Perry and I'm the Senior Aide, and she let me take this virtual office hour on the road and do a quick little tour in District 1, and I have the honor of introducing to you Pastor Scott from Matthews Hope. Pastor Scott, how you doing today? Tell us all about Matthews Hope.
I wish we had the time to tell you about all the things that are happening at Matthews Hope, but kind of give you a few things that kind of separate us different from a lot of the places you're going to see out there. Is our goal is not to make it just more comfortable for you to remain homeless, but to move you towards a life of independence and self-sustainability. And so we really take a strong look at peeling the onion back to see what's going on with somebody's life, that what took place that at the very least made it acceptable to live in the fashion they're living. Because right now it seems we're always treating the symptoms and we're not trying to look at the cause. And it's kind of like an example I often give is that if your nose was running or you're sniffling and I keep handing you tissues, at some point I'm spending a lot of handing tissues to you. Should I consider that maybe you have a cold, or you have allergies going on, or possibly you're a coke addict like I was? You know, because if you don't get down to the cause of this, then the symptoms really don't make a difference.
Yeah. You know, I have a special story I've never told anybody. I actually was homeless once, and I remember my mom, who was a recovering addict, we didn't really feel like there were a lot of opportunities out there during our most vulnerable period in our lives. And I came here with Commissioner Wilson and toured this facility with you already. And that's why I'm just so excited to take the people here on Facebook Live with us on a tour, because the things that you guys are doing here at this location and all across Orange County, if we had this during my mom's recovery, I know that we would have had a completely different experience. And so I'm just so honored and excited to share your mission and your story with everybody watching with us today.
Well, I appreciate it. And for me personally, I'll just say that when I myself was homeless, the challenge that we always had is there was somebody willing to give us food. That usually is not the issue that people think it is. Somebody will feed you. It may not be great, but they'll feed you. And I could get clothing and stuff, but nobody was trying to help me find a way to get out of the situation that I was in. We're always saying at Matthews Hope, help us, help them, help themselves. We can't fix people. We can't save people. What we can do is we can walk with them and support them and catch them as they fall. But we first got to get out to them, and that's what we spend a lot of time doing right now.
Do you have any examples of maybe somebody whose lives that you've touched and changed?
Funny you ask. No, I just want to share this cover, this family that's on the cover. This is one of our superstars, Sherry, and her two daughters. And long story short is Sherry was a server out at Disney and living in and out of her car after a 30-year marriage, and couch surfing at times, getting a hotel when they could, what have you. And the challenges they had is that Kelly, her youngest daughter, had to drop out of high school also to care with Olivia, who had been born with Down syndrome. And so talk about a mess. She came to us, was about $15,000 in debt when she came to us, in a broken down car, needing work and what have you. And fast forward 2 years, here's what took place. The first thing that happened is they came into our program and we got them housed in one of our 14 transitional homes. Next thing to do is we put her to work in the shop. Why? We figured out what her work ethic was and what her challenges were, because she also had a challenge with alcoholism. Due to all the other stuff that was going on, she started self-medicating. Then what happened is Kelly, she dropped out of high school, so we sent her across the street to Orange Technical College, where she got her GED, and she got a certification, and I can't even tell you what it was called, the certification, but I know it paid her well. Okay, and then Olivia had turned 21 in the middle of all this and could no longer attend Orange County schools, so she aged out. So we had to find a place for her to go to be able to continue to be cared for, so that mom could continue to work and not become homeless again. Okay, through all this happening, we had to prove that Olivia had Down syndrome by chromosome testing, because we had to prove, because her birth records could no longer be found. They were old enough, they weren't there anymore. And so we had to get chromosome testing for her so that she could qualify as someone with disabilities to be able to have some of the services she now has.
Wow.
Sherry, mom, gets a job at Lowe's because she worked in our shop, the Hope Chest. And when they asked her about the tools, she just said things like, well, I know that's a drill press because I use it all the time in the shop. Okay, so she ends up going to work for them. And what ended up happening next then, we had to find a new place for Olivia. So we found a place called Special Hearts Farm that specializes in working with young adults with various disabilities. It's an actual farm and they work there. They fell in love with Sherry so much that they actually hired her to work there as well. Now all this time, when people are in our program and they're living in our housing, they don't pay rent or anything like that, but they do pay a program fee because they need to learn how to maneuver with what they have. Anything that has free, I've always found, has no value. And so we have a value and make things as real life as possible. By the time she left, she started with $15,000 in debt, left here with $18,000 in cash that she still has 2 years later. Kelly turned 18 while she was in our program, so we moved her out of the family program into the adult program, and she was able to earn money through her work and through Matthew Soap that she left here with $6,000 after paying $6,000 cash for her car.
Wow.
And Olivia, the things that she's able to get now to care for her future, mom's not having to spend them because she doesn't have, it's being set aside. So if something were to happen to Sherry, Olivia's taken care of. Now that's a short version to a very long story, but in 2 years' time this took place because when you're in our housing you pay this program fee, and out of that program fee, give you an example, a family is $300, but that gives them a very nice home, nothing like you've ever seen in the homeless community. It gives them an internet cable, leather furniture, flat screen TV, all the things you would want to be comfortable. And in that process, they learn a standard of living, if you will, and caring for that place because they're responsible for it. We inspect them every week. But out of that $300, $50 goes into a forced savings account, $50 more goes into escrow, and we will take those and match that up to the first $1,000. So if they once they graduate, the least they'll live here with is $2,000. She left with $18. $25 back more is given back to you for discretionary spending, but we track every dime, every food stamp, EBT card, everything. So we track all that so they know where they're at on any given day.
So what I'm hearing is job training, specialized, like specifically catered to each person's situation, treatment and care and resources. And I'm also hearing skill sharing and learning. And I love the assessment period of when they come in, you have a period where you can analyze kind of where their strengths are and just help empower them meet them where they're at.
That's it. I can't tell you how many people call us and say, who do you have, Scott, that can pass the drug test? Since we don't take government funding, we drug test and do background checks on everybody. And they call us and say, who do you have that can pass this test, that has a strong work ethic and is either teachable or has a skill set? And they hire us from all the time. They're some of the best employees because a lot of these people realize they've only got so many second chances. And so they're really good employees when they get hired.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. I think there's a lot of mistrust when it comes to resources that come into some of the most vulnerable communities, right? I know that was probably one of the situations that I experienced through my mother and her distrust for the government or people that might come to door to door with resources. And even when we were struggling at our peak, I think that mistrust, it made her less open-minded to seeing resources that would come to us. How do you overcome that?
A lot of it's just really building relationships. You got to build relationships. It's kind of like I tell people all the time, you're going to work with a veteran. You can't call him out of the cave. You got to go in the cave, sit with him for a while and walk him out. And that's true with any of us that have gone through addiction or homelessness. You become so beaten down and so fearful of what I'm going to do that's going to get me in trouble that I'm not even trying to do, which homeless people are arrested all the time for some of the stupidest thing you'll ever see, and they can't avoid it. And so what happens is they keep to themselves. If somebody said I'm going to help you, a lot of places fall short, so they lose that trust. You probably saw that. You think you're on your way out. Next thing you know, well, we can't help you, or you don't qualify, or you don't this, or you don't that. With us, we peel that onion back again. We don't serve homeless people. We serve structurally challenged individuals.
Yeah.
You have to treat people like an individual if you hope to really truly help them, help themselves.
So day one, when I started working with Commissioner Wilson, we started getting phone calls of people saying, oh my goodness, there's a bunch of homeless people clinging at their things and being kind of pushed into oncoming traffic, and there's all these homeless camps that are being abruptly vacated. And the first thing Commissioner Wilson said was, call Pastor Scott, see how we can get involved. And you told us that there have been almost 15 homeless camp trespasses in just that very short period of time, which you haven't seen anything like that in years. Like, what's going on?
It's fascinating. We've actually, now we're at 16 camps since about mid-January. We had not seen a trespass in a camp in West Orange County that I'm aware of in probably 6 or 7 years. So this was a new phenomenon. The other thing that was very different is we've never seen homeless people living behind buildings in Winter Garden, in Ocoee, and what have you. And now, just in 2021, I'm seeing these people. And people ask why and how is this happening? And what I've told them, I actually warned back in May of 2019
we have this article
that
here.
We're going to have a homeless tsunami take place. And I explain why in the article, and I tell them I thought it would take 3 to 5 years. Well, COVID hit, and that accelerated it. What a lot of people also don't know is that the largest majority of permits being taken in Orange County, at one time I heard it was 90%, are all in West Orange County. So what's happened is you got Orlando pushing the homeless out to the suburbs, but the suburbs are disappearing because the woods are disappearing. So I tell people, like lately there's been a lot of bear sightings. Okay, last week I think it was, we had one in Windermere, Winter Garden, Ocoee, and Oakland. All have. I think there's one in Popka too. And I tell people, if you see a bear or a coyote, give it a few minutes, you're going to see a homeless man, woman, or child come out next. And a lot of people think it's a lot of new homeless people. It is a lot of new homeless people, but mostly what they're seeing is the people that have lived here for years, some of them in the same camp for 10 years, that are now coming from the street, now going to the streets. So there are people in the woods are now living on the streets. And it's a lot tougher being homeless on the streets than it is having a camp in the woods.
And when you say tsunami, so you're seeing people that are living in their cars or motels, or like, where's the increase that you're seeing now given COVID on top of the homeless camp trespasses?
Most are ending up on the streets. Okay, the camps are virtually disappearing. If you talk to us pre-COVID, at that time we had about 20 different camps that we visited each week. And we only have a couple camps now. Now we have locations where we know that homeless people congregate, or they'll know that our bus route hits there a certain time, and they'll be there when we pull up, and we work with them that way. And a lot of it all has to do with the fact that literally the habitat has been taken away. I was in Apopka the other day because we're getting ready to go mobile in Apopka here soon, and one of the things I said to Mayor Nelson over there, who's been great to us, was, you're about to see the tsunami hit your city. And he said, why? And I said, what's happening is you still have some rural areas left, but it's coming. And then as I sat through the longest commission meeting I've ever been in, 4.5 hours, more housing was approved and more changes for zoning for additional housing. And so what I'm telling him is people are getting pushed his way, but then he's not going to have the places for them, and they're going to end up on the streets there. And we're seeing more, I get more calls every day right now about homeless men, women, and children on the streets than we ever have, because now they're becoming visible.
You know what's so funny? Not funny, it's tragic, but it's something that I find is a little sad, that when you're planning comprehensive planning for an entire community, right? You're looking at the trajectory of what properties are being bought and sold and rezoned, and then you're trying to quantify and calculate the predetermined growth through all those changes, right? And that's how they quantify how the next school is going to be built, and what size the school is going to be, and the zoning of that location. But that conversation of the number of homeless people that are going to be pushed, or that it's never brought intertwined in that conversation when they're looking at the long-term comprehensive plan of a community.
Yep. And to me, it's just common sense.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm a high school dropout. What do I know?
They like ignore
But
it. Like,
but it's I think that it's because I think part of it in fairness, and I try to be fair. I try not to be too cynical. In fairness, there really is nobody in our local governments that really have an understanding of homelessness, or ever sat down with people that have been homeless and tried to figure out what does that look like and what are we going to do about it. There's more people upset that the homeless people are on the streets than they are that they're homeless.
yeah.
They're upset because they don't want to walk over them. They don't want to see them when they're eating dinner, what have you. And my attitude is, well, fine, that's okay. You don't have to like homeless people, but they're here. Are we going to come up with a plan, some type of plan to work through? You know, the challenges we're seeing right now is we're literally playing musical chairs with homeless people. They're just moving from one city in Orange County to another. I'll share with if I can, a quick story happened just this week. A gentleman by the name of Kevin. Kevin was down at Lake Eola area. The police come along to him because he's sleeping down there and said, you got to get up and go. Kevin says, I can't get up. They say, come on, buddy, we got to get going. I can't get up. He literally could not physically get himself off the ground. Not because he was drunk, not because he weighed 503 pounds and he had diabetes. And he had a diabetes issue that night. And so he just laid down where he could. And so what do? Now, do they run him down to a local hospital? No, they call an ambulance and they have him taken to a COE at Health Central. Okay? Now, Health Central helps him through some issues he's having with his diabetes and what have you. But now what are they going to do with him? So they call a COE PD.
He's not from Ocoee.
No. Now a COE PD calls me and they go, we don't know what to do with this guy. Pastor Scott, will you help? I'm going, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I said, you know what? Just bring him. Well, we can't. Well, can you guys come get him? And I said, why can't you do this? He won't fit in a squad car. Okay, this man had a 64 waist, a 7X shirt, and size 17 shoe. He was just a big man. And so I said, look, my team is all out. We have no way of picking him up. If you can get him here, we'll try to help. So they finally got a van they had. They loaded Kevin up. They brought him to us. We got him in the shower and all of a sudden realized we can't dress him. We don't have those size of clothes. So we sent one of our folks over to Altamont to a big man. It's the closest thing we could find. And we bought those clothes on him and we redressed him. He had nothing to clothes. Now what are we going to do? There's no shelter to put him in. He's been told that if he goes back to Orlando, he'll be arrested. He's afraid. And so what we did is we made some phone calls and we found out that he still has some family up in New Jersey and a pastor that will help him. And so what we did is after we got him all cleaned up, we got him a bus ticket, about $200, and Kevin is now safe back home, which is a better place for him because he has people there to support him.
And it's so
but that
funny,
whole circle of like,
because you were just saying the main point that led into that story is that a lot of politicians and people in decision-making positions don't know those stories. They don't have a clue.
And if they do, they're ignoring them.
They
And
treat them like debris, almost like something that they need to clean up and move somewhere else. Why? It doesn't go away.
You know, I think part of the challenge is they want to get re-elected, okay? And the people that are voting for them are typically not those people. And the attitude often is, and I don't want to be too rough on politicians, but you know, I've been throwing softballs for a lot of years, and it's time to sit there and say, okay, it's time to put up or shut up.
Yeah.
Tell me what you're going to do. Tell me how you're going to visit here. I've had a mayor say that to me before he got elected, a local mayor that many of us know, that will go unnamed, that said, I got to sit down with you, Scott, but I'm a little busy with this election. I'm still waiting for you. Okay? They need to learn what the resources truly are. They need to learn what's causing this, and they've got to come up with a plan comprehensively of how we're going to use this money. Because what happens is the complaints typically are, I don't want homeless people in the park. I don't want a homeless person outside of my restaurant. I don't want a homeless person here. We don't want the homeless person in the ER. We don't want the homeless. I get all that. Who does? However, pushing them just from place to place to place is not changing anything. And what's happening now, we haven't even seen the moratorium lifted. Wait till that happens, okay? And that's soon, as I recall.
Yes, very soon.
And when that hits, then we may not feel the full effects of that for about 90 days, because a lot of those people are families, and they're going to have some place to go somewhere to spend with time. They're going to couch surf somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
or double up or triple up somewhere. And that's going to go well from anywhere from 3 days to 3 months, based on we're all different. And I tell people all the time, take the 5 people you love the most, and let me put you in a small room and see how that goes. You know, and it's going to go bad, and there's really no reasons for them. We don't have the shelters in place. In fact, we have 3 shelters in Orange County, and they're all within walking distance, because nobody wants it in their backyard. But what I'm trying to tell people all the time, they're in your backyard, literally in your backyard. So you'd be better off having a place for them to go and be sheltered rather than roaming around the streets. Being somewhere where maybe they can get some help rather than roaming around. They don't want panhandling. I mean, I hear this all the time. Well, I tell you how to get rid of panhandling. This is the secret of the day, okay? Quit handing stuff out your window, okay?
Yeah.
That's where it starts. It starts directing people towards resources.
Yes.
Because typically a lot of those actually panhandling, I have found, are actually scams, or the money's not going to be used the way you intended. So.
And I've had to learn that too. Otherwise, I never would have known if I didn't ask the right questions. I'm excited to take everybody watching, including any politicians that might be watching, out on this tour. So I'm really excited. But the last point I wanted to make, which is something that for the first time ever I heard it come out of your mouth, and I'm going to keep saying it now, if I'm allowed to reuse it. This Housing for All initiative, right?
Yeah.
I keep hearing people say housing for all, housing for all. And I think affordable housing is such a hot topic, and everybody talks about the need, right? But you said something that really stuck with me, which was, if you take a homeless person off the street and put them into a house, they're still going to act homeless in the house.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that experience before our tour.
Yeah, you know, it's you know, I tell people, you put me in a garage and I don't become a car. You have to, I mean, you have to, it's so much more. And a lot of promises have been made. Okay, a lot of promises have been made over the last few years. So if you want to learn more about housing first, in my opinion, and a lot of people get angry with me about this, go 5-6 pages deep into Google and see what's happened with it. The problem is it's an unsustainable model. It just is. You got to, 2 things. It's all free. Okay, there's so little accountability, it's not even funny. You can't drug test. There's things you can't do, and I'm going, wait a minute, we live in a country you have to pass a drug test to get a job, but if you're getting government assistance, I can't drug test you. Can't figure that one out for the life of me.
Yeah.
There's no real true wraparound services. They're spread all over the place, and the problem with that is homeless people have a hard time getting from place to place, even if you give them a bus pass.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, you put something together. We've had transitional housing now for 7 years, and it works. But there's accountability throughout the process, and people are treated as individuals, not as cattle in numbers. You know, I want to talk about people and quit talking about statistics. I can make statistics say anything I want. Let's talk about people, real life situations. I don't care if you spend $1 million to only help one, but if you can show you truly helped that one, it was worth it. It was worth it, because you'll spend a lot more than that 1 million taking care of them the rest of their lives. Okay.
After you said that, and then what you just said about how communities are just moving homeless people around, that concept of housing first sounds a lot like another just movement of getting people somewhere else.
Let's put them
out
over
of the
here.
way.
Let's put them over here.
But you're saying wraparound services.
This will probably get me in trouble with some folks. You know that.
But you're honest, because you're seeing it. You're on the front line. So it really sounds like the wraparound services and the mental health component, the accountability component, the health, physical health, making sure that these people are well enough to thrive and prosper in a house. More so than just sticking them somewhere else and giving them that.
You have to, you got to give them a foundation, and then you got to continue to walk through the situation. I mentioned Sherry earlier. She's been graduating 2 years from this program. She still comes here probably about at least once a month, and we're still walking with her. She came to show off the brand new car she bought with her credit 2 weeks ago. Came to give me a hug and say, Pastor Scott, come see my new car.
Family.
I mean, it's crazy. It really is family. It's relationships. Some people ask me, what's your job look like? And I said, I'm kind of like a dad for about 1,000 homeless people. Okay? Because how I raise my kids, honestly, isn't all that different than how we're running Matthew's Hope here. You know, we've got to be able to learn truly who these people are, what got them to where they're at, what challenges mental health wise, and then we got to separate what I call mental health issues and mental illness. Everybody wants to clump those together. And I will say this out loud. I think we blame too much homelessness on mental health and there's one other, my mind just went blank. It is part. I tell people, if you didn't have a mental health issue before you were homeless, you will afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's too easy to blame it on no. Mental health is often a byproduct of becoming homeless, as is addiction. What's interesting is everybody wants to say the drug addict became homeless. No, often what happened is the homeless person became a drug addict self-medicating, or alcoholic self-medicating. Again, you don't ever hear anybody say that. You know, but we know that because we're in the woods, we're on the streets with them, and we've learned, and many of us have been in that situation. And so it's so important that we treat it individually.
Okay, well, I'm excited to take people on this tour so that they can see everything. Now, we are at a time of day when things have actually started to settle, because it sounds like you're here at like 7 a.m.
Yes.
Cranking out the work, right? And so we're roughly around 4:30 now, and so things are a little bit more calm, which is probably good. So after this, you can go home and get some rest. Tell us about this space and kind of give us a little overview.
I'm kind of walk you through that, and we'll hit a couple things, okay? We'll actually go that way.
Cool.
Okay, but what's here, again, don't let the quietness fool you. But what happens in this area during the week is that these are staff members that, obviously we got a lot of accounting issues that we got to deal with and what have you, but they're doing individual assessments with people, and they're helping them connect with resources, whether it's helping them with food stamps, a medical appointment. We help them get legal assistance, paying child support, job resumes, job interviews. There's so many different things. We do not have enough time to talk about all those things.
Yeah.
But it comes down to what is going to help you as an individual go from point A to point B. Okay. That follows up into here, which this is our. Kind of walk back here with y'all. This is our advocate office. And normally there's two young ladies sitting in here. Charlene, which is our mobile advocate, so she's out working with the homeless in the field, and Andrea, who's indoors. And what they do is they meet with all our homeless guests that are in our housing, but then also meet with the folks that are coming in to see what we can do to develop a relationship with them and find out what their particular needs are to move forward towards a life of independence and self-sustainability. If that's not going to happen, if that's not going to be the case, then the next thing we got to consider is, what do we do with them that's going to not so much make it more comfortable, but make their life a little bit more bearable out there, being homeless and getting the resources they need to move forward. Okay?
Okay.
I'm going to walk you through the pantry here a little bit.
This was actually one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, because I daydream about my house being this organized. I wish.
People are often stunned. I tell them it's a sign of a sick mind. But things you'll see here is that everything with a blue lid is men's or boys. If it's white, it's women or girls. Over here you'll see camping gear, tents, sleeping bags, tarps, the things you need to live on the streets. Over here you're going to see all kinds of other things like bike parts. You have bike brakes, locks, lights, tires, tubes, pedals, all those things that they may need to keep, because bicycles is most of their transportation if they have any transportation at all.
I have two quick questions about this. Number one, I've heard a lot of people say that they've gotten arrested for having inadequate biking gear.
Yes.
Is that true?
That is true.
Is that a perpetual way to keep people off the streets? Is that?
I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that one, but I find it an interesting thing to consider. What I will tell you that here in Winter Garden, where we're based, is and I can't tell you this is true today. I can tell you that it was true when we first started this. $65 was the fine for having improper equipment. If you were caught a second time, you could be arrested and spend 3 days down at the 33rd, which then would happen is often people stole or tore up their tents and they come back to nothing, and their IDs would be gone and the whole thing starts going again. And so what we did is we approached the city of Winter Garden and we asked that could we supply them with bike light kits and with our card on them. And they actually agreed with it, and the patrol officers carried those in their car and would provide them to people. We saw accidents go 50 is a terrible place, early morning and late afternoon, because the sun is right up and down 50. So we saw accidents go down, way down, bicycle accidents, but we also saw the arrest thing nearly disappear.
Awesome.
So, and that was, again, the city willing to work with us in that. We didn't ask for any money or anything. We just said, can we supply them? We also get our lights from a place that can't be bought locally here. So when we see our lights out there, no matter where we're at, I can tell they came from us.
Well, the other question I had was about the tents and some of the items that you give people to be able to successfully live outdoors. Do you get pushback from people who say you are feeding something that isn't wanted?
Oh, all the time.
A stigma of that, but maybe take us through that thought process.
I've actually been blamed for growing the homeless population, which is just absolutely insane. And I try to laugh, but it gets aggravating. We try very hard to be good stewards of what our donors give us. But what we try to do is we realize we're doing through less tents now than ever because the woods are disappearing. So instead what's happening is people are getting ponchos from us and tarps they can wrap themselves up to protect themselves from the elements when the weather's bad, whether it's rainy or cold or what have you, which is really sad. I used to tell people I had to snuggle up to a dumpster trying to find a corner area that I could get away from the wind and stuff. And it's not a pleasant way to live, and it's a shame that people again sit there and go thinking that we're perpetuating homelessness. No, they're already there. We're trying to keep them a little safer and a little healthier while we figure out how to get them out of the situation they're in. And that's going to take time. These people didn't come homeless. It took time to get to the place that many of them are at.
You told me a story last time I was here about how one mosquito bite could turn into an infection that could really cause such health complications for someone. And you're just trying to make sure people live whatever type of life they have with dignity and not be at the risks of the elements.
It's sad that, we all at one time scratched a mosquito bite open. But when you're out in those elements and you can't put a little Neosporin on it or what have you, or you're not paying any attention, you get into some bacteria. I've seen pus buckets on arms that are bigger than my hand that started out from a mosquito bite, that took a serious medical care that we were able to get them, but it could have been prevented if they weren't living out there, but we could get enough bug repellent. We go through a ton of bug repellent, especially this time of year, because with all the rains and stuff and the sitting water, if you live near any kind of water, even somebody leaves a jug of water out someplace, there's mosquitoes in there living. Okay, it's sad to say, but this is true how it happens. Something else you're going to notice is that pretty much everything you see is travel size. Now, I don't mean the kind of size you see at a hotel. Unfortunately, those are hard to inventory, which we have to do as a nonprofit. But they only last a couple days. The stuff that we have, if we walk down this way a little bit, the stuff that we have is literally travel size powder, travel size body wash, travel size deodorants, travel size shaving cream, all that kind of stuff. And the reason for that is three. Number one, most of the stuff costs about $1 in the store, so it has no street value. Most of the people we know are living out of a backpack, so it's light enough to keep it in there. But the most important part to it is that there's only enough for 1 week, which means they come back each week and we are able to find out what their needs are and address those needs that week and build a relationship. And that's the only way we're going to help them with the bigger stuff. But another part of that is we have what we call the hide in plain sight initiative. Our goal is to get them off the streets. That's not always going to be possible for some, or it will take time. So we do their laundry each week. We pick it up, we deliver it back. We make sure they have the hygiene. We make sure they come in here, get haircuts. They see one of our nurses or nurse practitioner. We try to handle all those basics. And it's all important because, one, if they blend in, people leave them alone. Number one. But number two, their dignity starts to feel pretty good when they come back and they feel good about themselves because they're clean and they have clean clothing and they're not being harassed. And that's a really big deal for people.
That's that trust that we were talking about, how, people, if you just come and hand food and leave,
right,
that trust isn't being built, And another compliment I have to give you is you must train your team on how to fold better than I've ever folded a pair of jeans my whole life.
We actually believe it or not, we actually modeled this after the Gap. Okay. I'm serious. I went and saw how the Gap at one time, I don't know if they still exist, but how their stuff was set up with sizing and stuff. Because what happens is, the other thing is this, I want to touch on two things because it all tells it here. Rather than put a hygiene bag together, here's what happens when you do a hygiene bag. Okay, so the homeless person gets this hygiene bag of stuff that some church group or something put together, which is super nice that they did it. However, here's what happens. Oh, I need powder. I don't need body wash. I don't need a razor, but I need the deodorant.
Yeah.
Now the problem is, now that's laying on the side of the road and everybody's complaining about it.
Yeah.
But they're going to carry around stuff they don't need. So we ask them each week when they come, what do you need today? Well, today I need a size 34, 32 jean, a medium shirt, a size 12 shoe. I need I need a deodorant, a razor, and I need a toothbrush. And that's all I need today. And that's what they're going to get today. So a lot less waste of resources, but also it allows them to participate in the process.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, we're actually instituting our new system, this POS system, that will actually it'll be like they shopped with us, and they'll actually get a receipt of what they got and understand the value of what they got. Because I've often said, if it's free, it has no value.
Yeah.
So we want to tie that to them so they have an understanding of what that looks like.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I don't know if they have many here in Florida, but when I was growing up, my mom was an addict. During her recovery, she would take me to a drop-in clinic.
Yeah.
And I used to package condoms, clean syringes, rubber bands, a little bit of food, to-go food, and all these things. And we would have free counseling for the community, always a cup of coffee 24 hours with somebody friendly at the desk, just ready to listen if internet, a place that they could receive mail.
Yeah.
And I think for me, one of the most humbling things was that someone who you could very easily see was struggling with either withdrawals or some level of addiction. They were human in that room.
Right.
And
that's a big deal.
Never, ever, ever stared at or spoken to differently than anybody else. I think that is so essential in the cause that you're creating here. The dignity piece is so human that they're not really homeless.
That's why they're structurally challenged.
Yeah.
Not homeless.
Yeah, it's so different. And
It's
I wish our
interesting
whole
you say that.
society was like that.
Well, from your lips to God's ears. I will tell you that often, and this just happened the other day, Charlene was working with one of our homeless women, and they were doing a drop-off, and she turned to her and she said, "Thank you." And Charlene said, "You're welcome." She goes, "No, thank you." Charlene just kind of looked at her. She says, "You saw me. You saw me." I mean, that's huge. All she wanted to be is acknowledged as a human being. She was asking for nothing else. We called her by her name. We don't use street names here. We use their name. You may be called Rambo in the street. Here you're John. Okay? But that's, and I've been through some of that. And I remember I had another guy in here who had a $150,000 salary just 2 years ago. He went through a divorce. It got rough. He got back on his feet, just went back to work before COVID, lost the job in COVID, lost his house, okay? And he said, the hardest part of not losing my house, not the divorce, not losing everything, he says, the hardest part is how people now treat me. They look at me like I'm something less than human. And he says, I'm the same guy that was an executive recruiter 2 years ago. I'm the same guy who lived in Summerport, which is a nice development down the street here, that I am now. But life happened, stuff happened, and he, did he make some mistakes along the way? Who hasn't? I get so tired of people casting stones because, always look at yourself before you throw a stone. You just might find you're living in a glass house. Over here, I'm going to show you a little bit of this, and it's not in place like it normally would be. Because normally what happens is we let guests come here. We refer to all our homeless friends as guests. When they come here, we let them shop here in the pantry. And what they do is if it costs $1 in the store, it's going to cost 1 point here. And rather than, homeless people always get to eat whatever someone gave them.
Yeah.
We give them a chance to come in here and shop, but they also have a budget. They're given so much they can spend. And if anybody who wants to work at Matthew's Hope can, and what they can do is they can earn points, or what we call pastor bucks. And if they want more, they can buy more. It's all part of it. We're not here to supplement. We're only here to supplement their food stamps, not to replace them. But even then, food stamps aren't what they used to be, okay, for a lot of these people. And so due to COVID, we had to switch to a lot of stuff that was single serve. So you'll see like the tunas and the chickens You know, by the way, homeless people get more tuna than they care to take.
Yeah.
But they love these little things where it comes with the mix and what have you. And here's something I'll show you that I think people always find interesting. Any idea why this is our number one, what I call our number one seller?
Why?
Because it's soft. And a lot of homeless people have no teeth or bad teeth. And this way they can get a protein in them. And so we go through a ton of Vienna sausage. I hate Vienna sausages. But we got to get protein in them. And so that's one way we do that. But if we look around here, you're going to see like a lot of single serve Chef Boyardee, soups, pop tops. Because what's happened, especially due to COVID, is that we in all these camps being trespassed, where before they might cook in their camp, now we need to have things that is good in not only in camp, but in a car, on the street, behind a building, some cheesy hotel they might have gotten into for a couple days. So we try to make everything, you know, we try to get the pop-top stuff. We try to do the single serve, the pre-cooked stuff. The sad part is it's not healthy stuff. So what we also do is we have a new ministry we're serving with right now that comes here every Tuesday and Thursday, and they bring us fresh produce. And so we're getting out fresh vegetables and fruit to anybody who can take it, and it's pretty cool. We also, before COVID, UF came out here and they taught nutrition and stuff, and we're going to start those classes back as part of our Moving Forward program and as part of our life skill classes that we do weekly. That'll be one of the things we're talking about. We're talking about how to do a bank account, finances, anger management, dealing with people, how to interview. I mean, I can go on and on and on. The only thing nobody pays anything for, when I say pay, that's not really what they're doing.
Yeah, their points.
Okay, their points, is fruits and vegetables. You can have as much fruit and vegetables as you possibly want to eat.
Now, for all the people out there that every Thanksgiving, they want to clean their pantries out and bring stuff here to feel good in that holiday spirit, what do you have to say to those people, even though their hearts are in the right place?
Just say no. Just don't do it.
Because everybody eats cranberry sauce all year, right?
I haven't had a single homeless person ask me for yams ever, or want to make a pumpkin pie because you didn't either make it or you bought too much.
Yeah.
And so then what happens is, here's one of the challenges we have. I have an employee, we're wasting about $40,000 a year right now just sorting stuff that comes in here. We give a list of exactly what we need and why we need it. For instance, we only take running shoes because they're breathable and washable. I think I said to you once before, you haven't lived till you can take a leather shoe up a homeless person and their toes are rolling around inside. The nice thing is gangrene smells like almonds, so you know.
Oh my God.
But yeah, and white socks. We go with white socks because it is diet. A lot of these people are diabetics, or they got foot ulcers because they're in their shoes all the time. And so white socks don't have dyes in them, so we do that. We have a reason for everything, so we put online what we need, how we need it, and people have a garage sale on a Saturday, and I got to tell you folks, I haven't met one child yet, homeless child, and we have them, that said, can you please bring me a broken, dirty toy? A homeless person said, can you bring me a broken lamp? But what happens, people drop their stuff back here. We literally are a pickup station now for Salvation Army for something between 50 and 100 big black garbage bags a week that we sorted through to get to the things that we need. Some of it's really good stuff. A lot of it's just trash. But we have to spend the money and resources because people use it sometimes as a dumping ground.
Yeah, and that's a cost.
It's a cost of resources and money and space.
And I wish I could take some of those stories and things that you've seen and make a slideshow for all the elected officials that are making decisions.
They'd be surprised what we get sometimes. By the way, if you make a donation, make sure you check everything that's in there.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to walk in here to the shop. It might get a little noisy. They'll probably settle down when they hear us, but I just want you to see what the Hope Chest looks like. And these are men and women. It's late in the day, so only a few people are still working, that have come into our program, and they either brought a skill set or they're being taught a skill set by another homeless person. And they're actually in here working. Now, in this particular case, this is Greg, who actually graduated from our program and is now on staff with us. So you'll see he's got a black shirt on. Normally you'll see guys with gray silver shirts on, men and women, and that means they have a job at Matthew's Hope and are working themselves towards housing.
Wow.
So
Beautiful.
Greg actually, he's working on a farm table right now. We build custom furniture and we repurpose and refinish furniture, and then we sell it in our Home Chef store at 1027 South Dillard Street, Winter Garden, right near Four Rivers. And it's beautiful furniture, and these are some things that he's working on.
Oh, I heard you're 3 months booked.
Oh, we are. That's our job sheet up there on our job board, and it's crazy. We're busy. What's really cool is one of the guys working out here, you just dusted. That's so funny. Your beard is full of dust. So one of the guys that, if you had been here earlier today, Miguel, he was actually legally blind from the standpoint his cataracts were so bad he could see a silhouette of you if I was about this close, and he learned your voice. 55 years old, he's homeless only because of that. We were able to get Miguel his cataract surgery and get him housed during the time he was healing. And during that time, we ended up moving him into the transitional program. He's gone to work now. He's 20/20 vision, fully independent, and he's just a beast of how hard this guy works, and he loves it, and he feels so useful. I've got 2 disabled guys. One's a vet, and another gentleman that's just had a stroke. And the biggest thing they say to me is, Scott, I feel like I have some kind of value now. Nobody wanted me, and both of them we found, one living in the streets of Pine Hills, and the other one had been trespassed when he's disabled from 2 camps in Nicoe in a 6-week period, and gave up. Now Steve has a scooter. They both have scooters they get around on. They're both living indoors now. They're both supporting themselves, but it was because we didn't overlook the possibilities. Quit looking for all the problems, we look for the possibilities.
There needs to be another word for disability at that point. It's not really...
I don't even like special needs.
Yeah.
I don't know there's a good word. We're politically incorrect no matter what we say anymore.
It's a different ability.
But I think it's different ability. And or looking at this, I mean, even in our school system, we focus on what kids fail at. Why not focus on what they excel at? Hey, I'm running a multi-million-dollar corporation, and I've never finished high school. I'm dyslexic. I've always had trouble with reading stuff. It's just part of my DNA. Clearly, I can think and speak. But everybody wanted to focus on what was wrong with me, as opposed to, I've seen kids that are math geniuses, but they can't seem to understand good spelling and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we don't teach them that, but we're trying to teach people algebra.
Yeah.
Okay, that can barely get through basic math. I can't tell you how many of those people have become homeless.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, how many of those people, because they didn't qualify to go to college and nobody taught them about trade school, became homeless. How many of these people were foster kids that became homeless? I mean, I can go on and on and on, and it's always because we focus on one's shortcomings rather than looking and celebrating what their ability is.
Yeah. Greg, how do you feel about your table and your work here?
I think it's fun. I mean, it's cool making cool things. Help support the ministry and just give people a work ethic. Not everybody's going to come through and be a carpenter, but you come in, you work, you put in your time, get used to the work ethic, get used to working with people in a business environment, and you just transition. It just makes it a lot easier.
How do you feel when someone sees your work for the first time?
It's cool.
Yeah.
That's where I get it.
He does, because he gets the satisfaction. As do the guests that have been here. Like I said, I want to say, Greg is he's on our staff now. He actually, believe it or not, some of the beauty of him, he worked our point system though. He bought a Jeep with his points. He bought computer. He's in his 3rd year of Valencia, 4th year of Valencia now.
2nd degree.
Okay.
Wow.
All this because he was willing to work and we were willing to walk with him.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's so many stories like that. I mean, it's hard. I can't hire every homeless person that came through here.
Yeah.
But some they understand the story. They understand their journey. Greg has a lot of success early on in his life. Some challenges happened in his life and broadside, and unfortunately, because we only got so much time, I can't get all on that. But the bottom line is rather than just discounting him for what took place, we sat there and started looking at, well, what can he do? Where are we at with this? And all of a sudden we find this amazing skill set. Here's what's really cool. He's an artist. okay, and a perfectionist, which can be a challenge sometimes.
When you put them
When,
together,
you know,
it's,
it's like that's a really nice $5,000 piece. It's just a shame I have to sell it for $3,000.
Yeah.
But a lot of pride, but also he didn't really build stuff. But through other guys in the shop that knew how to build, he learned how to build. And so now he's teaching other people. He's not even a builder per se, a carpenter, but he's teaching other people how to be a carpenter because someone shared with him. And then we got some volunteers that come in here and work and teach these guys. And then sometimes these guys teach our volunteers. They go, I never thought about putting it together that way.
Yeah.
So that's Miguel over there. He's a quiet one. He's ready to go home.
Here, you go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I won't put Miguel on the spot, but I will tell you, and I tease him when I see him, literally this is the gentleman that I told him could not even see not that many months ago. And he's quiet most of the time, keeps to himself, but the guy's got 20/20 vision now, and he's an amazing woodworker. I mean, Miguel, do you have a piece you're working on right now? You just finished this one? Okay, there you go. Okay.
So this right here.
That one, I stained that one, I stained that one.
He does a lot of the refinishing and repurposing. That's kind of his thing, and he's going, but he's built some stuff too. They're all sharing with stuff, and what happens is then what's really cool is then his stuff goes to our store where other homeless people are working, and they're getting their ways back. I mean,
Yeah.
so he's gotten his surgery. He's living in his own place now. He's got a couple of goals that we want to help him meet. One is if you could have a F-150 and 2 blondes driving.
Yeah.
It's gotta be a four-wheel drive truck.
So 4-wheel drive.
I know
okay.
some friends.
So,
First of all, your shirt is too clean. You must be too good. If your shirt is not clean and you're busting out
No,
that
I
beautiful
just
work.
make sure I'm clean. I do everything like with my hands, not with my shirt.
Miguel, thank you. All right. I appreciate. That's a good way to put that. So, but Miguel's his next big thing is he wants to have his teeth fixed.
Okay.
Part of that will be due to dentures and stuff, but he's looking to see how he can do that, and we've got the resources to do that.
Okay.
He's earning his way. We will use points. So there's some dentists that give us some discounts. Some only charge us lab fees, so sometimes we get dentures for free. Other times it's going to cost something. I want to show you this. This is the other part of our shop. John's in here. If you've ever seen the commercial with John Elway in it where he talks about his hands,
Yeah.
okay? John had a severe case of it. His hands clawed on him. So we got the surgery for his hands. One was successful, the other one not as much. So they're still working on that. But what happened is John is an engineer type thinker. And so part of what he's doing now, while he was recovering from the surgery, he learned how to use the CNC machines. And he's building things like this. I mean, look at that. Isn't that amazing? Okay? I mean, John, these are absolutely beautiful. I love these. These
Hey,
are.
John.
How you doing?
I would love to have that on like a plaque or something. Can you do that for me? That would be so cool. But John's also. I'm gonna take a minute because these guys are staying late, so we can be here for a minute. Can you tell them a little bit about this swing? We're actually live right now.
Oh, let's go see
You can
it.
just tell them what you're doing here.
Well, it's the third in a line of what we call wine time swings.
A 9-time swing?
Wine time swings.
Wine time swing. Okay, now you perked my interest.
And they're all different. This one, the base of this started off as someone's kitchen table.
Uh-huh.
It was cut down by 12 inches. And then these arms are a footboard. The back is a headboard. These little things holding up the, what would you call that?
The rope or what?
Yeah.
The shelves or
Yeah.
the tray or whatever.
The wine holders.
Down here, these came off the legs.
Come look at this detail over here. Look at that. So you're outside, you're swinging, you have your glass of wine. You don't want to put it somewhere that it could fall off the swing, so you just clip it right there.
Right.
Gorgeous. So you did all this detail and you did all
Yeah,
this
these were done
detail?
on the CNC machine.
Yep.
Wow.
He's learned to manipulate this machine to do some pretty cool things. But everything, this is all repurposed stuff. Okay? Very little waste happens here, and you'll see that people bring us like broken furniture. Maybe they've broken 2 of their 4 chairs. They'll bring it to us, and sometimes it can't be a chair set anymore, so we turn it into something else. I mean, I got pictures I could show you if we had time that would just blow your mind, because his mind goes to places that are very interesting from a creative standpoint. He finds them, and he comes up with some really cool ideas. But the cool thing is while he was down, he taught himself how to do this. And then we bought a second machine because he learned he could do 2 of them at the same time. So sometimes 2 machines are going, and he's building over here at the same time. It's like 3 people are working at the same time. Okay? But
Like
it's a skill set that if he ever left here, you know, I'm hoping to keep and figure out how to put him on staff one day. But he leaves here, he's got some skill sets to go someplace that even if he has any future trouble with his hands, he can do almost all this. In fact, the joke was before his hands started getting worked on was what he did such intricate work. Having to deal with that was what kind of work was he going to do when he could use his hands? And the truth is, it just got better and better. And it's still a struggle. He's still got some work to be done. I mean, he's, you know, we had some disappointment in the second surgery, but on we go. And the bottom line, though, look at me. And when he's done with this, I promise you, it'll be worth any penny, and no neighbor will have one like it because it's all one of a kind.
I've never seen anything like this ever.
They're all different. Each one is different.
Well, not just this piece, but the individualism and the upcycling component all mixed in with the detail and the upcycle. I just think that's so awesome.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Look at this place. It's huge. It keeps going. But
Yeah.
you have a whole storefront
We
as
do
well.
have, we have a whole storefront, about 3,000 square foot of things. Recently, August 1st, we take over the Mr. Sparky area, and that's going to be our new medical office. We'll have 2 exam rooms, we'll have a mental health care office, and we'll have that all up and running, hopefully someplace around September, October of this year.
Yeah. Are we going to get to see kind of that area?
I'm going to see what else I can get you to.
So exciting. Great.
Folks, thanks for being patient with us as we try to make our way through here. Now, this is a small area that what happens is some of the guys I told you earlier that were disabled, they actually work back here, and part of what they do is donations come in, they write through the UPC codes. They probably haven't started on those, but give you an example. They'll take stuff like this, and they will do 2 things. They run through UPC codes so they can't be returned for money and misused. And they'll also put the sell-by date. Because if it goes out of date, we will not give it to our homeless people.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're saying that they scratch out the barcode because they don't want people to return it for money to
Some
use it
people-
for misuse?
Yes. We've actually had people come here and pretend they were homeless to get us to help with them. We always figured out because of our intake process.
Yeah,
But
last
you
time I
also-
was here, somebody actually broke in and stole a bunch of brand new socks out of your drop-off site.
Yeah, they weren't new, and they were new brand new socks. In fact, they were brand new shoes also, and we caught them. You know, but it's a shame, and they aren't homeless. We've had so much theft around here over the last couple of years. We just had to spend a bunch of money for cameras that finally helped deter it some, but it was an expense to us to do that. And then the other part is people say, "Oh, those homeless people." No, these were people that were running scams. The one was in a BMW, another one came in here in Jaguar one night, a third one was in an Audi. I mean, these were people that had homes someplace doing stuff, and they're stealing from a homeless place to be able to do whatever they're
Run
doing.
stamps
Run
and sell
stamps.
brand new
Yep.
stuff that you get.
So the guys are back here, like I said, and they're helping out here. You'll also see, I'll share with you, during COVID, it's been very interesting. One is we had COVID vaccines again here yesterday. We did vaccines a couple of weeks ago. We were able to get over 100 homeless people vaccinated. But we've also gone through something like 125, we may be nearing 150 PPE masks and 100,000 hand sanitizers during COVID. We tried to make sure people were taken care of. So I want to take you down this way a little bit. And it's kind of like the never-ending maze. And what I'm going to show you here is our outreach center. And unfortunately, it opened shortly before COVID hit. And so it became a staging place. But I want to show you, like, even our restrooms. They're very clean. We have a men's side and a women's side. They also have privacy areas. So when you go back there, there's a privacy area that you can get dressed in, and then you can pull the curtain, another curtain, you're inside the shower.
cleaner than
But
most restrooms I've ever
Yeah,
seen.
yeah, and so when when they get here, normally there'll be timers set up here on the table because we can only give them about 15 minutes. Because like the other day, we did like 60 showers. Okay, so we got to keep them moving. There's only 5 showers, so every 15 minutes. And so they're issued a fresh towel, a bath mat, and a washcloth, and then everything is inside their own pumps. Okay, but if somebody needs something like, oh, I forgot to get some deodorant or whatever, we have that in here as well. Over here, it's not set up right now, but you'll see the barber pole.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
let's go see that.
and normally, what you're going to see back there is it's set up just like a barber shop. We're currently in need of more people, hairstylists. The gentleman that had done it for us for years is very, very ill.
Oh, no.
And we're praying for John, but he's unable to do it with us anymore. And we had some others that were businesses that got in real trouble during COVID. So we've had trouble. We try to have haircuts as often as we can. And normally this is all set up actually like a salon. So but you get an idea by looking at it. And then in here also we do classrooms, classes. Like I said, they can be anything from anger management to budgeting to hygiene, mental health. We had some come in here to do acupuncture for us, and they wanted to do it. And the guys, we got mani pet. We don't do the petties. We do get the manis though. But yeah, we have a gal, Omaris, who works with us, and she will do as many manis as she can. The manicures, and it's really the ministry of touch also, because she'll take their hands and she washes them for them and she cleans them up. And again, dignity, and like some of these people, I remember my first homeless person, other than myself, that I really connected with when I started Matthew's Hope. And I remember he was about this tall, and when he went to hug me, we're standing out in front of Publix, and people are looking at us, because here's this guy who's filthy and stuff. And I thought to myself that day when he hugged me, I thought, who ministered to who? But then I also thought, when was the last time this man had some type of human touch? We're designed to be together. We're designed to enjoy human touch. And to be alone and there's not a worse feeling than not just being alone, but being alone on the streets.
On the end of your rope.
Very end of your rope. And so normally what would happen is people show up here, and we have tents set up outside also, especially with COVID. And they come in here and they check in their baggage here, okay? They can't take their bags anywhere in the building but right here. And if they need something out of it, they will do that here, and then it goes back in the bag with up on the counter with their name on it.
Okay.
And then we have a phone bank that's not out here, but they can plug in their phones here with their name on it. Phones don't get stolen, and they can get their phones set up and powered. But initially they move in from here, and they would normally sit here, come to this desk here, and this is where they're going to get the intake. They're going to get their picture taken, we're going to do a background check, and we're going to start the intake process, which can take 20, 30 minutes in some cases. Okay, and then what happens, they get a lanyard with their picture on it so everybody knows their name, and then with their MH number. And the MH number is used also when they need mail delivered. It comes here to our address under their MH number, so they have access to get their mail.
Awesome.
And then normally what would happen,
Because you can't fill out a job application if you don't have an address.
you
right?
can't get anything without an address.
So,
Okay, you can't, you have to have
do
an
you work with
address.
iDignity?
We do, and I love iDignity. Mike Dippy is a rock star. What ended up happening is we used to actually try to take people, years ago, homeless people in a town, but they did it one day a month, I think the rescue mission. And when the homeless saw that we were bringing in people on buses from West Orange County, it created an issue. So what we did is our volunteers and staff learned what they do, and we do that every day here.
Okay.
But the beauty is that when we have a really hard one, we call iDignity and they take it over for us, because a lot of it's not that hard, it's time consuming, but every once in a while you got the stuff where you need that attorney involved or what have you, and they're great partners.
Yeah, ever since I learned what iDignity does, I value and cherish the ability to have an ID, because it opens so many doors of privilege that I didn't recognize that I had having an ID, that you're limited if you don't have a driver's license.
Yeah, I can't even get you on a bus now if I want to send you home if you don't have an ID. You can't go in for social services with that ID. You can't, basically you could starve to death by the time you got the ID. I mean, that's extreme, but honestly, that's how it works.
It's almost like an obstacle on top of an obstacle of being
Well, yeah.
homeless.
And then now imagine you've been arrested or something, or you've been mugged, which we see homeless people, not homeless people mugging homeless people. We see sometimes it's young adults that see the homeless person has some money. He goes outside the convenience store around the corner and they take all his money. We saw when stimulus hit, I can't tell you how many beatings we saw.
Of homeless people getting hit and beat up by people on the
People
streets
to
that
take
see
their
them
money.
with cash to take their cash.
their
They're
money.
like, they're vulnerable, I could prey on them.
I can show you pictures that you'd say, what's left of that man's face? And it's really sad, but it happens because they're vulnerable. They're very vulnerable, and most of them are fairly weakened physically because of living in the elements all the time.
Yeah.
And they don't get the rest they need, and they're uncomfortable. So it's really sad. And again, if I show you pictures of before and afters, I got a guy, a vet I was telling you about, he looked like Grizzly Adams 2 months ago when we first brought him in. He now looks like a male model. I kid you not. The guy is, I wish my beard and hair would come in that pepper, okay?
It's really sad.
George
because
Clooney type.
When I was in high school, I remember seeing a story on the news that there was some YouTube channel of people in Florida that would, kids,
Yep.
teenagers, that would go and beat up homeless people.
film it.
And get money
Mhm.
to go and target people
Mhm.
in the woods and beat
Mhm.
them up.
Mhm.
Do you still see that today?
Yes, we see it all the time. We see things that would absolutely disgust you that most people, as long as you don't have to hear about it, you don't care about it. You know, I tell people until you've made eye contact, they're just a number. But when you make eye contact, and that's what happened to me also. I mean, I didn't do this because I was homeless.
Yeah.
A lot of it had to do that because of the fact that I didn't see anything that actually helped the homeless is why I did it. But a lot of it was making eye contact with somebody else and being empathetic towards that, because I'll never know what somebody else feels or what that experience was for them. You know, I was molested as a kid. I know how it affected me. I can't tell you what baggage somebody else is carrying for that same thing. You know, and so, but I made that eye contact, and it was like, okay, how can I not do something about this?
Yeah.
And so that's the mission. I'll share one more thing to you. When they do, like, remember I told you out in the back in the pantry, they meet with a personal shopper.
Yeah.
So they sit here in a personal shopper, and there's a POS system, just like, okay, with the iPads.
That you can like
And they
click
put, okay, I need a side, this side, boom, 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 and it works up the order and prints out in the other room. And then there's pickers back there taking that and setting it up, and then brings it back to them, and they're ready to go.
It's
Okay.
so great for inventory too. Just to
Well, the
keep
beauty of
track.
it is not only does it pull from my inventory, I can tell you with every one of our guests, and we surpassed 5,000 a long time ago. I don't know what we're up to in 11 years, but each one of our guests, I can tell you everything, every meal they ate, every hygiene product, every piece of clothing, every service they ever got. We have that tracked from day one.
So I feel solution coming out of your mouth, every word, to this crisis that we're seeing, this tsunami that we're seeing. Why are people not pounding at your door? Political figures, donors. Why are people not chasing you down for this problem that you're seeing on the streets of moving homeless communities? Why are people not saying, look at all this solution? Come to the table, help us, guide us. You've said that you haven't had as much participation over the years.
We're, for the first time, and we've been more proactive about it too, trying to get the leaders of our community from the various cities to talk to one another, for the county to talk to the city, city with the county. Folks, if you believe it works like that, it doesn't. Okay? They don't talk to each other in many cases. They don't share, how they handle here will be different over here. And the problem is how they handle here and how they handle here creates each other's problems. I think part of it is, one, I'm not educated. And so I'm not the guy that comes with a PhD and the $1,000 or the $10,000 or the $100,000 study. Okay, I'm simply telling people this is what it is. I can show it to you real life. Take it for what it's worth. And quite honestly, most politicians of the past haven't shown a lot of interest in even spending time with us and learning. I can tell you that recently I'm very pleased with the folks. I mean, even at a Poppy the other night, we had 2 people scheduling appointments with us before we left the building. Okay, Brian Nelson had already been here, so that would make 3 out of his 5, and the others will probably come. I got this next week, this past week, you all have I talk to you probably once a week, between you or Nicole, once a week.
Just to catch up and talk about mani-pedis,
yeah,
right?
Exactly, right, yeah. What are you doing? That's a long story. People love it, those of you that know me. But also, they're taking an interest. I mean, we've had my mind's going, people from Macoe, Winter Garden, Oakland is coming out, Windermere's going to, we're talking to them right now, Pocket. And we're getting these people to start talking to each other. One of the things I'm creating was what I'm calling a sounding board. And a sounding board are people from all different racial backgrounds, economic backgrounds, and ages. I've got high schoolers up to people that that is president of a bank, that we're going to come in here and all we're going to do, they're my sounding board. I want to know from your lens, you're looking through, because we all have a lens, how did you develop that lens, and what are you seeing that I'm missing? Mm-hmm. And that's the best study, and here's the really cool thing, it costs nothing to do. It just took a little bit of time. We've spent an exorbitant amount of money. We've literally turned government into a business. And businesses are created out of that, of supplying information. I mean, look, you don't have to do a study to figure out there's homeless people on your street. You simply walk down the street.
And you talk to them.
And you talk to them. And the question I told someone, I was sharing some time with Eric Gray recently from the Christian Service Center. And he was once with United Against Poverty. And we were talking, and I said, he's making some changes and doing some really good things. And he doesn't serve a lot of homeless people, but he deals with a lot of people in poverty. And I said, Eric, I'm no one to give you advice, but here's how I did things. I asked people what they needed. What do you need? If you look at our badges that everybody had on, it says, how can I help? That we started that 11 years ago. How can I help? Because I got to start there. And I can't do anything for you if I don't know you, if I don't understand you. I don't understand your quirks, your how you deal with issues. I got to get all that to be able to help you help yourself.
And that's an obstacle for a lot of governmental aid, is that they try a lot to create one set of resources that should be blanketed across as many people as possible. But since everyone's somewhere different in their life, some people have to jump 2 or 3 times higher to get to those resources than some other people that might be living right at the edge of poverty. But see, it's the same set of protocols for each person, when really you need to get an individualized system to help meet people wherever they are.
Wherever they're at. You got to meet them where they're at. And that's the only way to really do this. And it's not going to set right on a spreadsheet. It's not going to give you a matrix that is easy to sell somebody on or to report something. It goes so much deeper than that. So I think it's really important that we start looking at people as people. I'm a Christian, I don't hide that. I'm not a Bible thumper, but I'm sitting there going, I tell people all the time, that's somebody's parent. That's somebody's child. That's somebody, And, we see so many seniors right now that have become homeless. I got 3 right now I'm working with, and I know we got to wrap up here soon. I apologize.
No.
I want to share this with you. 3 homeless people I'm dealing with right now. One is Mary, and she is 74, and when her husband died, she lost a good portion of their income because now it's just her. Another gentleman, 67, had 3 heart attacks, then had a lung removed. He has a pension. He did what we were told when we were younger. Work for a company, get a retirement, get a pension. He had a bunch of medical bills. He didn't know that you didn't have to pay all your medical bills. As long as you pay something, nothing's going to happen. They're not going to report it, nothing. So he emptied his bank accounts. He paid off all the medical bills. Now he could not survive on his pension, so he's living on the street. A third gentleman who is mentally challenged and great, sweet soul. And he lived with his parents all his life. When they died, his sister took over. She died about 7 months ago, and he's now living behind a building on Dillard Street, Winter Garden. I mean, that's the kind of heartbreaking stuff you're seeing. I can't tell you how many families I've called, especially with men. Their wife became terminally ill. They threw everything they could at it to save her. She eventually dies. They go into self-medicating. They're depressed. They quit watching their finances. They end up homeless. But because the family, when I was a kid, you went and visited the grandparents. Now the grandparents do all the visiting. So say they fly up north twice a year, and Dad sees him, and he's living life in Florida, when the reality is he's living on the streets or in a tent in Florida, but he puts on a good show twice a year. And then I'm the guy that has to call and say, hey, my name is Pastor Scott Ballou. I run the homeless ministry in Florida. And a lot of times they'll say, so why are you calling me? I said, I just want to let you know that your dad passed. Well, how do you know my dad? We've been caring for him the last 5 years. Why didn't anybody tell us? Because his pride, and he asked me, and I knew that if we said anything, he wouldn't come back. He'd be on his own. You know, and those are stories that we see every day. And that's why we're actually developing supportive housing for homeless seniors and people with low-level disabilities to have supportive housing that have found themselves homeless. It's if you saw the amount of people with disabilities out there, that, you know, if you ever find out what you get for disability, you can't survive on it. Not anywhere, much less in Central Florida.
And I think a lot of the disabled and retired vets, the resources that they were told they would have when they went in are not enough. And that's why we have this veteran homeless crisis as well.
They would be enough if it wasn't so damn hard to get them. They make it almost impossible. I can't, even like Steve, we're working right now, he was given 10% disability. The man can't walk with, until we bought him a scooter, he has to have 2 braces to walk. He got frustrated, he gave up. He just got tired of fighting the fight for something he was promised the day I was recruited. They told me all kinds of things, okay? And it's there, but if you don't know how to get to it, or you're fighting through the system, if we just gave the benefits instead of spending years sometimes fighting from giving a benefit, we probably would come out in better shape fiscally.
Yeah.
But it's like this game we're playing with everything, and I don't get it. I don't understand it. If somebody was willing to give their life for our country and something happened to them, either during, because they were told either during wartime or just in life in general, then why aren't we just making that happen? Now, the VA came a long way the last 4 years or so, okay? 3-4 years. I will say this about the previous administration. It really pushed the VA to a new level.
Good.
But it's got a long ways to go. It's got a long ways to go. And it's sad to see people that have given up or they're suffering from PTSD, and are not getting the mental health care they can. People, we talked mental health care earlier, the people that most need it can't get it.
Yeah,
can't afford it.
The last point that I'll bring up on that you taught me about PTSD, never thought of it, because I battle my own trauma, and I understand trauma in my way, but you brought up how living in the woods sometimes is so much easier for someone with PTSD, who loud noises and sirens, and imagine living you put someone in housing first, in the middle of an urban area or a place where there's a larger population, there's trauma there that goes untreated. And sometimes going into the woods is a more scenic, more quiet, more peaceful place for people that are suffering.
It's an environment that many of them became used to. And they've learned how, they were soldiers, they learned how to live outside.
Yeah.
Even being homeless on the streets, I can't tell you how many of these guys have breakdowns because they're simply sleeping out on a corner somewhere and a siren goes off or a boom goes off. And you'll see them come in here, and it's sad because I don't have a single call I can make or push a button to help them get what they need. And one last thing I'm going to tell you is I think, and we do it, I think we need to treat homelessness like this. We treat it as though it's an addiction. And here's what I meant by that. When I was still addicted to cocaine, I got up in the morning, did a little hit. A couple hours later, had to have another bump. A few hours later, boom, and you go through that, and sometimes it just goes on and on. With homelessness, you get in the morning, I'm hungry. You got to find some place to eat. You spend the next 2 hours try to find what you're going to have for lunch. You spend the next few hours trying to find what you're going to have for dinner, and the next few hours trying to figure out where you're going to sleep tonight. And so it's this hamster wheel of cycle that we're trying to slow it down enough to bring it to a stop to help them get their lives back. Because they're so busy racing on this hamster wheel trying to get to the resources that are all over the place. Most of ours, it's all under one roof. That they've just given up and they start self-medicating. Like I said earlier, most of those people weren't drug addicts or alcoholics before they were homeless. I can bet my life on that.
That sounds a lot like everybody in society. I know so many people, including myself, that you wake up early, you got to get your coffee in, you got to get to work, it's always the next thing, and there's a lot of depression in the lives of feel like everybody is battling with some level
Especially
of,
since COVID.
you know,
I
and it's
can
just
tell you
that
the level has
survival
been-
hamster wheel, right? And when you're trapped, you're trapped. So I'm
Unless
very
somebody's
sad
willing to
hear
give you a
that.
hand off of it, you'll be trapped on that till the day you die, and it will be a miserable death.
Very sad. But I know you had a piece of paper in your office that you
Do
wanted
we
to
still
share.
Can we do that?
Yeah. Your office
If you
is right
can.
here, so.
So let's see. I can't get out that way now. 'Cause
Okay.
So we're going to slide through here real quick.
Okay,
But I
yeah.
wanted to share this with you because it's funny. I think it was your office that got a call recently saying that we were helping people get stimulus checks and then taking their money.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was a comment. You had a myth buster that you wanted to blow up.
Yeah, that's crazy because first off, we won't help homeless people get stimulus checks because the truth is what is a homeless person going to do with a stimulus check that's healthy?
Yeah.
Even the ones that aren't addicts. Okay, what typically was happening is they were getting beaten up, or they would stay in a hotel for a week and eat well for a week. If they were drug addicts or alcoholics, now we fed that, and then we get them back a week later in a bigger mess than they were before. Mm-hmm. Now, what is true is if you are in our housing, we do in fact control your money. However, every week you sit down with a financial advisor, and they will actually sit there. And I'll just show this to you. I don't know how much you can see, but what will happen is they'll sit down with those people, and they will actually sit down and see how many points they earned, how many dollars they've earned, how many points they've saved, how many dollars they've saved. If they in housing they have a matching account, how many dollars they've matched. This is given to them every week, so they know right where they're at financially. If they choose to leave the program, we will turn over all their money to them, except for the matching money because they didn't graduate, within 24 hours. And that's just so we can do the final accounting, because a lot of times we're paying bills. Because what happens, they write, which is like a fake check to us, because they're responsible, and then we pay the bills. Say they needed tires, or because you can, with points, you can buy almost anything that helps move you forward. And so and we try to encourage them, use your points you've earned so you can save your dollars for the future. And so that's just something we came up with back in year one, 11 years ago, and we're still using it today. And it gives them just a very clear understanding. John, who you saw earlier, he is now debt-free. We just negotiated his last $5,000 worth of debt, because that's part of what we do, is negotiate debt. Like I said, Sherry was $15,000 in debt. Each has a different story. We've had women that have been trafficked. We've had women that have come out of abusive situations. There's foster people. There's so many different reasons people become homeless, and this is part of them retaking their life back because they're understanding how this cycle works. And so when they leave here, they're in a better position to be a contributing member of society, which is what seems to be what everybody likes to talk about. But the reality of it is we've set up very few opportunities for that to actually take place.
I wish I had that in my personal financial life. Being a student that's been buried in debt the past 10, 15 years, somebody to guide me through my finances without asking for a percentage of whatever, income I have, to actually help me just learn the path to get on my feet as a recovering student with my crippling debt. You're doing that for individuals who come to you with whatever given circumstances and individualizing their step-by-step path to get them to be debt-free.
It contributes. Brandy, who you've been earlier sitting here, has 2 degrees from Auburn. She's a smart girl. Some stuff happened that was very tragic, but also the financial aspect of it. When she came in, she got her son back a year ago Christmas. When Isaac first got to us, he was failing out of school. He's now been on the AB honor roll for the entire year and the last quarter of last year. So again, giving stabilization, building relationship, loving unconditionally, loving people for not who we think they should be, but for who they are. We can do almost anything.
So signing off, in closing comments, I'm sure people want to donate, they want to volunteer. What can you tell the people that want to get on board and help you today?
As far as a couple things you can do, you can look at our Facebook page, which is obviously facebook.com/Matthews Hope Ministries. If you're interested in our store, you can find the same thing, Matthews Hope Chest, on Facebook. You can actually donate to us right from a cell phone by dialing 41444 and put in MHM, capital MHM. You can donate there securely. We won't see any of your information. There's donate buttons on our website at matthewshopeministries.org. As far as what we need outside of money, if you follow us on Facebook, we just put another list up today. We do an update every week as far as our most critical need. Like this week right now, we are almost out of boxer briefs in medium and large sizes. We're almost out of blue jeans, size waist 28, 30s, and 32s. So, we try to make our most desperate need main done weekly. And then what we also do, if you want to volunteer, you can actually contact us through volunteer@matthewshopeministries.org, or on our website. They will tell you different ways to volunteer. So, we look a lot bigger than we are. We have had thousands of volunteers. When COVID hit, we lost probably about 90%, 95% of our volunteers. Some are trickling back now, but we need people. That's how we get it done.
So, when you're getting ready to hand money out the window, or when you're making one of those little kits to put in your car to hand out hygiene kits, instead maybe check out your Facebook, look at the supply list. When you're out shopping for yourself, buy a couple of those things that you see right there in the aisles that you're shopping in already, and just bring them here to your location and drop them off.
And if you are going to carry something in your car, carry water. That's the biggest need, because even during the winter, they actually get dehydrated faster, which creates all kinds of health issues. One thing we do out here is we sell pastor bucks, and you can literally buy them in $5 increments. And if you just absolutely can't help yourself and have to hand something out the window, you hand them pastor bucks. If they come here, they can they've got $5 to do some other stuff they want to do. If they tear it up, chances are it was a scam, or they're going to use it in a way you didn't plan. But we still have the $5 to help somebody who wants the help. So there's a lot of ways of doing this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This is just one of the most incredible operations, cleanest, most organized thing I've ever seen. I was taking notes for my own closet and my own inventory and my own financial planning. I'm just very impressed by all the work that you do. And I thank all of you for watching. If you have any questions, and you want to get connected to Pastor Scott, you can email district1@ocfl.net, and I will connect you, and hopefully soon we can do a supply drive and get more resources for you. But thank you so much. I really
I enjoyed it. I appreciate your openness to hearing how things can be done differently. I thank you all to keep our staff and volunteers in prayer. It's been a rough few weeks, but we're ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Happy Friday. Happy weekend.